And our thanks again to Michelle Levine. Well, after the initial Kevin Rudd intervention was on the Wednesday night, wasn't it, Philip Adams live? And here's how all sides of politics spun that return.
All I'm saying, the tone, the message, spot on. The country needs the return of our government, because if it does, it will go forward. If Tony Abbott is elected, it will go backwards.
No matter how you choose to cut this cake, I think that Kevin Rudd's intervention last night is good news, and I think that it shows that you've got a Labor Party who are positive, who are interested in moving forward.
Apparently, Ms Gillard is moving forward and back to Kevin Rudd. How does this actually work?
It's hard to know just who is currently in charge of the federal government. Is it real Julia? Is it fake Julia? Is it comeback Kev?
We had the first week old Julia, then the second week was new Julia. The third week is Kevin Rudd. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Latham appears next week.
Good call, Nostradamus. Let's try and answer Barnaby Joyce's question. How does this work?
Well, it's a dog's breakfast, frankly. I really don't know how he, for the next 2 weeks, is going to keep... I mean, this is the guy who 6 weeks ago was unelectable and has now been, which is why he was dumped, tossed overboard, and now he's been called on to be the saviour, the only one that can get Labor re-elected. So the questions even if they quarantine the press, the media from him when he goes around and about and they keep his location secret, well, they'll try and do it. But then he will, no doubt, be informing the media where he is. And what are the first questions he's going to be asked when he goes around the shopping malls? Gee, mate, what happened to you? I mean, what's he going to answer?
George, just before we go on, we'll have a look at the polls first of all, but there's the poll of polls that we've been doing, which pulls together the 5 major polls, and it actually has Labor in front 51-49, but a word of caution there, Essential poll is out of step with the rest. Essential has Labor at about 54, so that distorts the figures. I think the truer picture would probably be that in reverse. Would you agree with that?
Yep, I'd certainly agree with that. Look, the Essential Research poll is an online poll. Use a completely different method to the other pollsters, so they may be right and everybody else may be wrong, but I think you want to stick with the other 4, and that has the coalition just in front. Now, the thing that's driving the vote at the moment, and I was just wondering, I was thinking out aloud, those 2 headlines, how would the Desperado headline have played? Well, it would have sunk Labor's vote yet again if it could go any further down in Queensland. How would the other thing have played? Well, Julia Gillard is doing very well amongst women. Labor's had probably the 2 most miserable weeks in election campaigning history by any incumbent anywhere in the Western world.
Self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted, exactly. But if they're 50-50, 49-51, well, they lose on a national poll like this. But we have to unpack this thing. Queensland is driving the thing way down, which means that they're competitive or slightly ahead in every other state.
Yeah, like if you have a look at the Nielsen poll, I think Labor's primary vote was 26% in Queensland, and yet competitive overall. So the support for Labor must be strong outside of Queensland.
Well, yes, but the other thing, sorry.
But it's not strong. I think if you talk to the strategists on the other side, I think that you can understand it a bit better. It might be strong overall, say a state of New South Wales or even WA, it's not that strong, but within certain seats it's not strong. So if it's not strong, say, in Lindsay, and it's not strong in a seat like Hasluck, say, well, then they lose those seats. So we've said this from the beginning. I think, the national polls don't tell us the real picture.
No, they don't. And they didn't in the 2007 election either.
Just while we're on the poll, so and this suggestion that Kevin Rudd is being recruited because he's popular in Queensland and can turn the vote is not true. He's being recruited simply to kind of create some semblance of unity. And here's the evidence. Morgan did some research in Queensland, and this is what it said. The preferred Prime Minister in Queensland, Tony Abbott, 53%, Kevin Rudd, 39%. So the Queenslander is getting absolutely thrashed by Tony Abbott in his own state. Now have a look at the rest of Australia. And preferred Prime Minister Tony Abbott 44%, Kevin Rudd 47%. So he's actually more popular as an alternative Prime Minister outside of Queensland.
I think
so it's not about Kevin Rudd, it's about this unity.
This is what's driving Labor's strategists crazy, because he wasn't popular in Queensland, but I think they will also say, and I haven't been on the campaign trail, but others who have in Queensland, so they are getting a lot of, it was wrong how Kevin was treated. So they didn't want to maybe elect him, but they wanted the chance to give him the belting themselves, and they don't like the way a Queenslander was treated. And and that's what this unity thing, I think, is about, is trying to sort of bring him back into the fold and do a bit of healing and rapprochement and hopefully calm that sentiment down.
Well, he's applying for a job as minister in a re-elected Gillard government. Whether that's a 50% or a 49% chance is up in the air at the moment. But
he's trying to repair his legacy.
Yeah, but I would have thought his interest would be to put a sock in it for the next 2 weeks and actually do the grassroots. Because what are the scenarios if Labor go down? He'll wear it.
Yeah.
It'll be all about him.
Yeah. OK, now the real Julia thing, and she's taken a fair bit of stick for that. I wonder, though, whether now the line that she was pushing very strongly this morning is OK, now take a look at Tony Abbott. What about the real Tony Abbott? Do you think that the campaign might switch to some attention on that?
Well, it depends on the way he goes today, obviously, and the sorts of policies that he presents. I mean, if you're right about him outlining a policy today that would have those harbouring illegals jailed, facing mandatory jail sentence, I mean, that sounds fairly extreme. The campaign launches...
What if your cousin from England overstays on the visa and you're putting him up?
They didn't come by boat.
They didn't come by boat.
Is it harbouring people who come here without a visa, or is it harbouring the people smugglers?
No. The reports this morning suggested it also goes to harbouring illegals.
Well, that's a terrible term anyway.
And not
but
associated with,
term,
not associated with people smugglers.
I mean, the thing is that the whole people smuggling, the whole immigration, asylum seeker debate has yet again bogged both sides of politics down.
Let's be clear.
And it's also a completely ridiculous argument. It's a non-issue in Australia. It's something that is used constantly to inflame certain sections of the public. I just think it's a disgrace.
Look, I agree, it is disgraceful, but it is also what Labor has known for many elections now, that as soon as the issue is in the ether, it plays worse for them. That is what the coalition's banking on. And it doesn't matter how well Tony Abbott does or doesn't do today. If Labor next week has, Julia Gillard says she's had a few hurdles, well, they've all been put there by her own side.
And it's not true to say that it's not an issue. If Labor hadn't toughened up its position, they wouldn't be competitive in Lindsay.
Sure, but why in between elections doesn't some political leader stand up and get a bit of guts about this issue and start talking about immigration and asylum seekers in realistic terms?
OK, did we get a sense of maybe the old Tony Abbott? Remember the old Tony Abbott when he was campaigning in Tasmania? Have a look at this.
Glad to see you. Pulling for you. Pulling and praying for you.
Well, the latter we love, the former, well, I suppose we all need to do that a bit.
Tony, OK,
He did say Channel 9 was running the election campaign.